everybody, and welcome to Richard Kirby's Inner Cultural Space Station. And today being the fourth of 5 programs dedicated to laying out, I wouldn't say the theory of astronomical comedy or even galactic humor. It's not even an invitation to a community. This is the community. It reminds me of a book by John Dominic Crossan about the parables of Jesus. It was called In Parables. And his revolutionary idea, if I understood it correctly, was he said that the coming of the kingdom is not like the parable. It is the parable. It's the telling of the parable. From my point of view, this is not even the convocation of celestial comedy. It's here. This is it. When you have a family of citizens made up of astronomers, comedians, mathematicians, yogis, tricksters, pranksters, television producers, you get, I think, not an indigestible recipe. You get a feast. And this idea that life is a great banquet, a joyous occasion, is what we're going to talk about. You can feel it in your body. You can feel it on the street. You can feel the majesty and the humor of that beat. I guess I'm having to find myself inventing some celestial rap music as well, and why not? If our hip-hop is the hip-hop that we read about with the lame walking, as the Wesleys said in their songs, "O leap ye lame for joy," then that is a happy event. I forgot to mention when I was listing all the constituencies involved in developing the theory of Homo ludens among the stars, the philosopher. A friend recently asked me to write some remarks about I was going to say the philosophy of acceleration. I may as well stick with that. There is a tendency in certain academic circles, and we mustn't forget the idea that all academies should be comedy cockpits, to try and keep subjects separate unless the people want to be an interdisciplinary scholar. So someone might say, for example, I'm a neurotheologian, and another person may say, well, there's no such subject, to which the reply comes, well, there is now. All over the world, new subjects are being birthed as we talk. Many of them in my lifetime. Neuropsychobiology, I think, is one of them, or some such thing, which I associate with John Kabat-Zinn. And other ones that I've come up with, initially I would hoot with laughter. I thought I was misreading it. A few years ago, I read that I was seeing somebody called a physiatrist. I guess that's a new concept, like cross between psychiatry and medicine, but the people took it seriously enough. All over the world, these new disciplines are being born. In the work of social innovation, we ask the questions that other people are not interested in, and one of them is, well then, let's call galactic comedy or celestial comedy a new field, and this is it. And one of the benefits of that, very important one, is called the expansion of consciousness. Now this is a jargon phrase that you can learn from mysticism. For example, I think in a book on initiation, I think by Alice Bailey, you read the phrase, what is initiation after all but an expansion of consciousness? And laughter gives us perspective, comedy gives us an initiation into the divine laughter. and that's good enough. So we deal here with one of the ingredients of laughter, which is the collocation, the putting together in space of things which apparently make an absurd combination. Somebody once said that if you want to learn how to make a mnemonic device, how to learn to train your memory, picture a fountain pen riding a horse. It's difficult to let go of that image. It seems so silly in some respects. But when we penetrate into our subject and think of the whole world as a sphere of comedy of which we are in the inside, if we imagine for a moment that we're in a planetarium, that's a very easy thing to understand. We look up, and there are all the constellations, stationary for us or wheeling around, and with a laser pointer perhaps showing where they are, what they are, and then suddenly they are superimposed with the pictures of the animals they represent, like Taurus, the bull. Now we're going to take a leap of the imagination, which is so typical of comedy. And I'm indebted to a very close friend who said to me, well, aren't we trying to find out what laughter is all about, what makes it so funny? Actually, he didn't say that, but it was something like that. So what if, instead of seeing constellations on our planetarium, let's coin a word and call it a comedarium, which is pretty close to a comet. It's only one letter from D to T as you get in a planetarium. If our comedarium, which is close to an auditorium, so it could be both, instead of projecting onto our night sky constellations, what we see is regions of comedy, realms of laughter, keys to humor, and each one could be given its own latitude and longitude, or to use the jargon of astronomy, right ascension and declination when you're talking about the celestial skies. What if, as if we're watching a comedy channel on television, we lie on our back, project the night sky, and find a realm of comedy into which we want to go? Now this is an actual invention that I'm talking about here. For the moment I'll stick with the phrase, the comedarium, home of celestial comedy. What if we could fine-tune it? What if we had a southern hemisphere of comedy as well as a northern hemisphere of comedy? One of the fascinating things about amateur astronomy is this realization that what you get north of the equator night-wise is not what you get south of the equator. The poet Thomas Hardy, in his book, his poem Drummer Hodge, tells about a young man in the Boer War who was killed in South Africa, and before he died was very puzzled by the strange-eyed constellations and died never knowing what they were or even why they were.